All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, we have not had a repeat Super Bowl champion in the National Football League since the New England Patriots did it back in 2004. And even though that the current defending Super Bowl champion, rather, Los Angeles Rams, are far from being out of things this season. They still have plenty of work ahead of them if they are going to buck this current trend. Now, through 5 games this season, the Rams are 2-3, and they've been unable to recapture the magic that has resulted in them or did result in them hoisting up the Lombardi trophy this past February. Issues on the offensive line. And I mean, the Rams had some issues on the offensive line last season, but they've gotten exponentially worse this year. Through 5 games, Matthew Stafford, the Rams starting quarterback, has been sacked 21 times this season, including 5 today in the Rams' home loss to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, how do you compare that to last season? For all of 2021, Stafford was only sacked 30 times, so he is well on his way to eclipsing that mark. The formula, in my opinion, in order to stop the Rams was created last season during the playoffs. We saw it, but like teams like the 49ers in the NFC Championship game or the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl just couldn't overcome the stifling Rams defense. And of course, the defense of the Rams has not been as stifling as it was last year. Of course, a lot of that, or some of that rather, can be attributed to the fact that Los Angeles no longer has the services of Von Miller, who left in free agency to join the Buffalo Bills. And of course, having a guy like Von Miller in that front seven with the skills that he has in regards to being able to rush the passer, he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. It made things so much tougher for opposing offenses to key on people such as Aaron Donald, because Aaron Donald is a wrecking machine in his own right. I mean, you've seen Aaron Donald consistently get double and triple teamed, and he still finds a way to go out there and get to the quarterback. And of course, obviously, having a tag team partner up front, not to mention you also had and still have Leonard Floyd, it makes things, that much tougher for teams to game plan for you. Losing Von Miller changes a lot of that. So the Rams, from their defensive aspect, they haven't been able to go out there and do the things that they did last year. But nonetheless, getting back to it on offense, we saw the Niners in the playoffs put a lot of pressure on Stafford. We saw the Bengals have some success early in order to blitz Stafford. But nonetheless, it's gone to another level this season. We saw Buffalo have success with it in week number 1, San Francisco this past Monday night, and then, of course, the Dallas Cowboys this afternoon as they sacked Stafford 5 times. I talked about not having Von Miller out there. And I know some people are going to say, well, they don't have OBJ. I mean, even if OBJ was still a Ram right now, what contributions would he be able to have on his team? Because he's still rehabbing. You got to remember, he blew out that knee in the Super Bowl when it looked like he was well on his way to having a big time game. But nonetheless, you can have all of the talent that you want at the skill positions in the NFL. If you cannot block people up front with your offensive line, it won't amount to a hill of beans. The Rams still have issues running the football. They were able to get away with it last year, but just because you were able to get away with something one year does not mean that that is going to transfer over to the following season. And we are seeing that right now. For me, another big thing with the Rams is the fact that it's different when you are the hunted and not the hunter. And we've seen the Rams for several years push and push and push and make all the necessary moves to try to climb that mountain and get to that summit. And the thing was, they achieved it. They gave up a lot of draft picks, and I'm not knocking them for doing it because you know what? It worked. But the hunger that they had to get to that point, now you have the target on your back because it's the fact that you are now the litmus test for all of your opponents. Yeah, you won the Super Bowl last season. Yes, last season is last season. But like I've said before, you have to go out there and theoretically play 17 Super Bowls for the following season because everybody wants to test you because they want to see if you are as big and bad as you say you are. You might not have to say that you are, but it's kind of like the kid who has a shiny new bike on the block. Everybody wants it. And I'm not saying people are going to go out there and steal it necessarily, but nonetheless, everybody wants what you have, and they want to try to knock you off and try to build for their season. We saw that in week number one on Thursday night with all the bells and whistles at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. It was the Buffalo Bills that went out there and dominated these Los Angeles Rams, and the Bills definitely feel before they even felt before that game that they had what it took to get to and win the Super Bowl. So obviously they wanted to go out there and make a statement. We saw the Niners this past Monday night after the fact that they swept the season series from the Rams last season, and obviously in their eyes they're going to feel like they let one go in the NFC Championship game last year. But nonetheless, they punched them in the mouth. And then again, we saw it today with the Dallas Cowboys. And I think getting to the game today, Dallas was able to make a statement early in this game. Rams first possession, you put pressure on Matthew Stafford. The sack fumble, DeMarcus Lawrence scoops it up. Then we saw right after that, Cowboys come out there and block a punt. So all of that factors in, and it didn't really help the scenario that there were probably more Cowboy fans in the seats at SoFi Stadium than there were Ram fans, and that's been a problem for the Rams since going into that stadium. Obviously, there were no fans during 2020 due to COVID protocols, but even last season, through some of the games, we saw so many fans from the opposing teams be in there. Last year's NFC Championship game, there were more 49er fans in the seats at SoFi than there were Rams fans. And then I talked about this leading up to the Super Bowl last year. There were going to be more Bengals fans in the stands at SoFi than the Rams. Of course, the Bengals, it had been more than 30 years since they made the Super Bowl. And of course, their fan base wanted to go out there and show out, and they did. Obviously, the Rams were able to overcome that, but it's still a problem because you saw Matthew Stafford having to walk around and adjust signals to his offensive line today because of the Cowboy fans making noise in the stands. And this is supposed to be your home field. You really don't have a home field advantage out there in Inglewood right now if you're the Rams. And I know it's tough because, okay, you just came back to the City of Angels back in, I want to say 2015, 2016. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, that's a long time since the Rams were previously there when they left in 94, didn't really leave on good terms. So now you got to go out there and create a fan base. And of course, LA fans want to see a winner. But on top of that, sometimes they could be fair weather sailors. We don't see LA teams sell out like that until the postseason. It happens with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers are consistently a playoff team every year. The Lakers are a little bit different because with the Lakers, they're a brand, and going to the Staples Center, and of course, previous to that, the Great Western Forum, it was an event. It was a fashion statement, and it still is for this Laker team. But nonetheless, we talk about it. You see it with UCLA and USC football, especially UCLA. They're undefeated, but you know what? They're still struggling to sell out, and they're not even coming close to selling out. Rather, and it's been like that for years. And of course, so I'm bringing it back to the Rams. The Rams are still having this issue, and it's going to be a while before they really can establish a true home field advantage in that stadium. For me, you heard about the rumors of Sean McVay leaving and Aaron Donald possibly retiring. Obviously, they're both of them are back. Aaron Donald is still zeroed in on football. I mean, you saw him get to the quarterback twice today, and he still has a high fervor. You could really see it in regards to playing the game of football. But then you also got to deal with the fact, as the champs, everybody's telling you how good you are. Everybody's giving you a pat on the back. Then out there in Hollywood and LA, people are lining up to have you do chip and dip commercials, endorse products, parties, all that stuff. Now, again, it comes back to the hunger. And how hungry are the Rams to go out there and get it done? Now, the Rams have gotten punched in the mouth several times this year. And they still have plenty of football in front of them because, all right, 5 games down, you still got 12 to go. Everybody else, with the exception of the 49ers, is 2-3 in that division. Seattle lost today. Arizona lost today. San Francisco won, so they're a game up on the Rams. And technically, they're 2 games up on the Rams, but the Rams do face this 49ers team in a couple of weeks. But at the end of the day, if you're the Rams right now, this is gut check time, my man, because you obviously you're far from out of it because you still got plenty of football in front of you. On top of that, you have the additional wild card spot in the NFC, so that gives you another opportunity to make the postseason. But now is the time where you really want to try to get your footing and get it going. You host Carolina this Sunday, so that should be an opportunity for the Rams to get back on track. I expect the Rams to be heavily favored in that contest at home. Then you have your bye week before you host San Francisco. And San Francisco is always a tough game for the Rams because the Niners are a very physical football team. And that's followed up by a trip to Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're still talking about having to travel to face the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs are looking real good. You still got teams like the Raiders and Packers and Chargers and Broncos on the schedule, not to mention 2 games with the Seattle Seahawks. So you still got your work cut out for you if you are Los Angeles. But at the end of the day, it's really time to get it going. So I do expect the Rams to make some adjustments soon. But the bottom line is it's very difficult when you have protection issues up front. Your offensive line is the nucleus. It's the central nervous system, if you will, of your football team. And if you cannot establish the offensive line, it's going to make things very tough for you. The Rams still have plenty of talent at the skill positions. Also, on top of that, they have to deal with the fact that, you know what, everybody wants a piece of them now. And now, once again, we are seeing just how difficult it is to repeat as Super Bowl champions. The Rams still have plenty of time, but the bottom line is they got to pick up their pace. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.